She was 7 months pregnant when she came home to find another woman sitting on her kitchen counter, wearing her husband's hoodie, laughing at something on his phone. And the worst part? He did not deny it. He did not beg. He did not cry. He did not even raise his voice. He simply crossed his arms and said, calmly, carefully, like a man who had rehearsed this moment for months, "I think it would be best if you found somewhere else to stay." He listed the assets in his name, the house, the car, the insurance, one by one, like items on a receipt. She was 7 months pregnant, and he was handing her an invoice for the life she thought they built together. So she packed one bag, she picked up her keys, and she walked out, exactly the way he knew she would. What Derek Whitfield did not know, what he never bothered to find out in 4 years of marriage, was who he had actually married. He saw a woman who was comfortable, quiet, reasonable, a woman who would not make a scene. He did not see the $47 million in a trust fund bearing her name. He did not see the billionaire father who had been watching, waiting, preparing. And he did not see the woman his wife was about to become, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of something far more powerful than either. This is the story of Claire Ashworth. And what happens when a man underestimates the woman he chose to destroy? Lesson statement. Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one who was quiet enough to let you believe you had already won. Meaning and value. This story is for every woman who has ever made herself smaller to fit inside someone else's plan. For every woman who has packed her dignity into one bag and walked out of a door, wondering if she had anything left. This is proof that what looks like an ending is sometimes just the moment before everything falls into place. If this story moved you, if you saw yourself in Claire even for one moment, hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it tells us to keep creating stories like this one. Drop a comment below. Tell us, what was the moment that got you? We read every single one. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. You probably already know exactly who that person is. And if you are new here, welcome. Subscribe and turn on the bell. We tell stories about women who were counted out and came back as something no one saw coming. You are in the right place.
A key turned in a lock. Footsteps stopped. Claire Whitfield stood in the entryway of her home, holding 2 paper grocery bags and listening to a sound that did not belong. A woman's laugh, low and easy and completely at home in a place where it had no right to be. The third bag had broken in the parking lot. The handle gave out next to her car, and a can of crushed tomatoes rolled under the front tire, and she had left it there. She had been thinking about that can the whole drive home, thinking about whether the tile grout in the downstairs bathroom needed replacing, thinking about whether the baby had moved enough today, or whether she was just not paying attention the way she should be. She was always second-guessing herself these days. That part was not new. Claire set both bags down on the entryway floor. The marble was cold. The house smelled like something cooking, something with garlic and olive oil. She had not started anything before she left. Her hand went to her stomach, not dramatically, just rested there. She walked to the kitchen doorway. Amber Prescott was sitting on the kitchen counter. Claire's kitchen counter. The white quartz Claire had spent 3 weekends choosing because Derek wanted gray, and she wanted white, and white was the one thing she had insisted on. Amber was wearing Derek's gray company hoodie, and her bare legs dangled over the cabinet below, and she was laughing at something on a phone screen. Derek was standing between her knees. His back was to the doorway. One hand rested on the counter beside Amber's thigh. The grocery bag Claire had forgotten she was still holding hit the floor. A jar of marinara sauce broke. The sound was enormous in the quiet house. Derek turned around. Claire looked at her husband. 37 years old, the man she had married 4 years ago in a garden ceremony in September. The man who had held her hand in the ultrasound room 8 weeks ago and said nothing but squeezed her fingers so hard she thought he might actually be moved. She stood in the doorway, with marinara sauce spreading across the white tile, and she thought, I knew, and I kept deciding not to know. The baby kicked, hard. The first real kick she had felt all day. Claire, Derek said. Amber went very still. Claire did not scream. She did not throw anything else. She did not cry. She stood there for what felt like a long time, but was probably 4 seconds, and she looked at her husband, and she looked at the woman on her counter, and she felt something in her chest go very quiet. She turned around. She walked back to the entryway. She picked up the 2 grocery bags from the floor. She carried them to the front porch and set them down beside the potted fern she kept meaning to water more regularly. She sat down on the porch step. The door was still open behind her. She did not go back inside. The neighborhood was quiet. Tuesday afternoon, a school bus had come through 20 minutes ago. The Hendersons' dog was barking at something 2 houses down. The maple at the end of their driveway had started to turn. She had not noticed that until now. First orange leaves at the tips of the upper branches, fall coming without anyone asking permission. She sat on the step and she counted the red flowers in the pot beside the Hendersons' front door. 7 of them, small and bright against the gray stone. She counted them again. 7. She started over. 3 times she counted those flowers and got to 7 each time, and each time she started over. Derek came to the door. He did not ask if she was okay. His first sentence was not that. Claire, he said, let's not make this into something it doesn't have to be. She turned and looked at him. He was standing in the doorway of their home with his arms crossed. Not aggressively, more like he was cold or protecting himself from something. Let's not, she said. She turned back to the street. We should talk inside, Derek said. In a minute, Claire said. He went back in. She sat on the step and she breathed. In through her nose, out through her mouth, the way Dr. Fitch had shown her for labor preparation. It was not labor. It was just the end of something. She was not sure yet of the exact shape of what was ending, but she could feel the edges of it. The marinara sauce was still spreading on the kitchen floor. She hoped Amber would clean it up. That thought, petty and specific and entirely beneath the scale of the situation, made her almost smile. Almost. She stood up. She straightened her coat. She went inside. Amber had moved from the counter to the living room doorway. She was holding her own phone now, and she had the look of someone who has decided their best strategy is complete stillness. You should go, Claire said to her. Amber looked at Derek. Derek said nothing. Amber went to the entryway, collected shoes that were not her shoes. They were flat leather sandals that had been on the entryway rack for 2 months, and Claire had assumed were a client gift that Derek forgot to pass on. And she left. The door closed. Claire and Derek stood in the kitchen. The marinara was still on the floor, a dark red pool with one large shard of glass in the center and smaller ones scattered toward the refrigerator. Neither of them moved to clean it. How long? Claire said. Derek rubbed the back of his neck. Claire, How long? She said again. He looked at the window above the sink, not at her. 8 months, he said. 8 months. Claire was 7 months pregnant. The math landed before the words did. 8 months ago, she had been in this kitchen making coffee on a Saturday morning, and Derek had come up behind her and put his arms around her and said something about the weekend. Something easy and ordinary. 8 months ago, they were a couple with ordinary Saturday mornings. 8 months ago, he had already started. I was going to tell you, Derek said, after the baby. I didn't want to disrupt the pregnancy. I didn't want to disrupt the pregnancy. She heard those words the way you hear something in a foreign language, where you know just enough to understand how bad it is. Okay, Claire said. Claire, I heard you, she said. 8 months, after the baby. You didn't want to disrupt things. She looked at the marinara on the floor. She picked up the dish towel from the oven handle. She crouched down slowly, carefully, the way she had to do everything now at 7 months. She picked up the large piece of glass with 2 fingers and placed it in the trash. She began wiping up the sauce. You don't have to do that right now, Derek said. Someone does, Claire said. She cleaned up the marinara. She rinsed the towel. She wrung it out over the sink and draped it over the faucet. Her hands were steady. She did not understand why her hands were steady, but she was grateful for it. What happens now? She said. It was not a question. It was a request for information. Derek crossed his arms again. I think it would be best if you found somewhere to stay, for now. I'm 7 months pregnant, Claire said. I know, Derek said. I'm sorry about the timing. She looked at him for a long time. Sorry about the timing. The house is in your name, she said. The mortgage is in my name, he said. Yes. The car? Is leased under my account. Yes. My insurance? Is through my employer, he said it gently, with what appeared to be genuine regret about the administrative inconvenience of all of it. You have family, Claire. You can go there. She had not spoken to her father in 4 years. Her mother was in Scottsdale, and they talked twice a year at best. I'm 7 months pregnant, she said again. I know, Derek said again. The clock on the microwave read 4:17. She had been home for less than 30 minutes. She went upstairs. She packed a bag. She took her toiletries, 2 changes of clothes, her laptop, her prenatal vitamins, the folder of medical documents from Dr. Fitch's office, and the small framed photo from her nightstand, not of Derek, as it turned out, but of herself and Patrice at a concert 4 years ago, laughing at something off camera. She came back downstairs. Derek was in the living room. He was on his phone. She picked up her keys from the entryway bowl. I'll be in touch, she said. He looked up. Something moved across his face. Not regret, exactly. More like the expression of a man watching a situation unfold exactly as he planned and finding the reality of it slightly less comfortable than the plan. Claire, he said. She walked out. She put her bag in the car. She sat in the driver's seat. She put both hands on the steering wheel. The maple at the end of the driveway was still turning. Orange at the tips. It would be fully changed by next week. The whole tree, red and gold, and she would not see it from this driveway. She backed out and drove. She did not know where she was going yet. She drove for 4 blocks and pulled into the Walgreens parking lot and stopped the car. The engine ticked. The radio was on low. A commercial for a furniture store. Sale ends Sunday. She sat there. She thought about the crib, still in the box in the nursery corner. Derek had said he would put it together. She had given him 1 more weekend. Then 1 more. Then 1 more after that. I kept giving him 1 more weekend. She said it out loud, alone in the car, to no one. She called Patrice. Patrice answered on the first ring. He's kicking me out, Claire said. He has someone else. I need somewhere to go. A pause. One breath. Honey, Patrice said, I've been biting my tongue for 2 years. Patrice Holland lived in a second-floor apartment 12 minutes from Westfield Heights. She had given Claire a key 2 years ago for plant watering purposes during a vacation, and neither of them had ever mentioned getting it back. Claire drove there on autopilot. She parked in the visitor spot and sat in the car for another 5 minutes before going up. Patrice met her at the door in socks and a sweater, holding her phone in one hand and opening the door wide with the other. She said nothing. She took Claire's bag. She brought Claire inside. The apartment smelled like Patrice's candle, something with cedar and orange peel. And there was a cooking show on television with the volume down. 2 cats were on the couch. One of them looked up and then looked away with the particular indifference only cats can perform. Claire sat down on the couch. The cat closest to her moved approximately 2 inches further away. Tell me, Patrice said. So Claire told her. She told it simply, without performance. The groceries, the hoodie, the counter. Derek's arms crossed, his voice calm, his administrative rundown of whose name was on which account. 8 months after the baby. Sorry about the timing. Patrice listened without interrupting. That was one of the things Claire had always valued most about her. She did not rush to fill silence. When Claire finished, Patrice said, He planned this. I know, Claire said. The voluntary thing, Patrice said. You leaving, I know about that clause. Claire looked at her. Owen mentioned it once, Patrice said. Owen Reeves was her husband, Derek's business partner. A while ago, in the context of, it was a general conversation about asset protection. I didn't think anything of it then. Claire turned that sentence over. How long have you known about Amber? Claire said. Patrice set her phone face down on the coffee table, deliberate. I've seen them together at company events, she said. The way he didn't look at her in front of you. The way he talked about work in a way that never mentioned her, even though she's his direct assistant. I said something to Owen. What did Owen say? He told me to stay out of it. The room was quiet except for the soundless cooking show. A contestant on screen was carefully folding something into a bowl. Methodical. Precise. Owen knew, Claire said. Patrice's silence was its own answer. Claire's world folded in a second time, not dramatically, more like a piece of paper being folded in half and then half again, getting smaller and denser and harder to open back up. The affair, the house, the insurance, the car, Owen, knowing, Patrice staying quiet, every person in their social circle, suddenly a question in her mind. The baby moved, a slow roll, like a turn and sleep. Claire put one hand on her stomach. What did Derek say? Patrice asked. After you found them. He was very calm, Claire said. He had answers for everything. He had clearly thought it through. She paused. He said he didn't want to disrupt the pregnancy. Patrice made a sound. It was not a word, but it communicated clearly. He also said I had family I could go to, Claire said. You're here, Patrice said. I'm here, Claire agreed. Patrice got up and made tea. The kettle was loud in the small kitchen. The cats rearranged themselves. Claire took off her coat, the coat she had been wearing since she left the house. She had not noticed until now. She laid it over the arm of the couch and looked at it. In the right pocket, there was a lip balm, her car key, a grocery receipt, and something else, something flat and stiff. She reached in and pulled out a business card, plain white, embossed letters. She had no memory of putting it there. She turned it over. Miles Sherwood, Ashworth Legal Group, Family Matters, Confidential Consultation. She had a vague memory. A parking lot, her OB's office, A card under her windshield wiper. She had pocketed it without thinking. That had been 4 months ago. Maybe 5. She set it on the cushion beside her. Patrice came back with 2 mugs. Nora called, Claire said. Patrice stopped. While I was driving here, I let it go to voicemail. Claire picked up her phone. She played the voicemail on speaker. Nora Whitfield's voice was precise. Controlled. The voice of a woman who had been managing situations for 61 years and considered herself expert. Claire, I think it would be best for everyone involved if you handle this quietly and with discretion. Derek has a career to protect and a reputation in this community. A custody situation is going to be very complicated given that you haven't worked in 3 years. I just want you to think carefully before you do anything rash. Call me when you're ready to have a sensible conversation. The voicemail ended. I'm not crazy. I know exactly what she just threatened. That was the thought, clear and declarative, not a question about whether she was overreacting, not a wondering whether Nora meant something else. She knew what she heard. She threatened you, Patrice said. She did, Claire said. While you're 7 months pregnant and your husband just kicked you out of your home. Yes? Patrice sat down. She wrapped both hands around her mug. She looked at the business card on the couch cushion. Ashworth Legal Group, she said. It was under my windshield at Dr. Fitch's office, Claire said. Months ago. That's your maiden name, Patrice said. Yes, Claire said. They both looked at the card. Claire picked it up. She turned it over again. The embossing was deep and even. Good card stock. The kind that cost something. She set it back down. She drank her tea. It had gone lukewarm already, but she drank all of it because she had not had enough water today, and her prenatal vitamins always made her slightly nauseated when she was dehydrated, and she needed to not add that to the current situation. Practical. She was being practical. He used my practicality against me, she thought. He knew I would not make a scene. He knew I would think about the practical things. He chose that moment because he knew what I would do. She had done exactly what he predicted. She had left. Patrice's phone buzzed on the coffee table. Patrice turned it over, looked at it, and set it back down face first. Owen? Claire asked. Yes, Patrice said. Don't answer it yet, Claire said. I wasn't going to, Patrice said. They sat together in the cedar and orange peel quiet of the apartment while the cooking show contestant plated something elegant on a white dish and smiled at a camera they could not hear. That night, Claire lay in Patrice's guest room in her clothes because she had not thought to pack pajamas. The room was small and smelled of clean laundry. There was one window facing the parking lot. A streetlight came in through the gap in the curtains. She stared at the ceiling. 3 times she picked up her phone to call Derek. 3 times she set it back down. She was not going to call Derek. She picked up the business card instead. She looked at it for a long time. Then she dialed the number. It rang once. A man's voice answered. Calm, unhurried. The voice of someone who was not surprised to be receiving a call at 11 o'clock at night. Miss Ashworth, he said, we have been waiting for your call. She had not given him her name. She had not said a single word. The streetlight came through the curtains. The parking lot was quiet. Her baby shifted and settled. Who are you? Claire said. My name is Miles Sherwood, the man said. I represent your father's interests. And yours, if you'll allow it. She had not been called Ashworth since before the wedding. She had not been called that in 4 years. The name sat in her chest like something that had always been there, waiting. Miles Sherwood did not explain everything that night. He asked if she was safe. She said yes. He asked about the baby. She said the baby was fine. He asked her location. She gave him Patrice's address. He told her a car would come in the morning. He would have documents for her to review. He would answer all of her questions then. Who sent you, she said. Your father has been monitoring the situation, Miles said. He became aware of Mr. Whitfield's activities approximately 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks. He knew 6 weeks ago. She sat with that. Why didn't he call me himself? She said. He was afraid you wouldn't want to hear from him, Miles said, given the circumstances of your estrangement. He chose to prepare rather than to reach out and risk having you close the door. The ceiling above Patrice's guest bed was plain white, with one small water stain in the corner. Someone, at some point, had had a leak. The stain was old, dealt with, a problem from the past that left its mark, and nothing more. I'll see you in the morning, Claire said. Good night, Miss Ashworth, Miles said. She lowered the phone. Miss Ashworth. She opened her bank account, her personal account, the one she had kept since her first job at 22, the account she had never closed, even after Derek suggested she fold everything into the joint account, because it was simpler. She had kept it. She had not added to it significantly in 3 years. $342. She read the number 3 times. God. I handed him every lever. Every single one. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? Not a question. A statement of clear-eyed recognition that landed like cold water. She traced it backward in the dark room. She left her marketing position when Derek's income tripled, and he said it made sense, and she had agreed, because it did make sense on a spreadsheet, and she was tired, and the work was not work she loved. She had let the joint account become the primary account because it was simpler. She had put her name on nothing, not the mortgage, not the car, not the investment accounts Derek managed with such quiet authority. The prenuptial agreement. She had signed it at 27 over a dinner at a restaurant she had loved, in a dress she had loved, flushed with wine and the particular optimism of a woman who does not believe she will ever need to know what she signed. Derek's attorney had drafted it, her own attorney, a friend of a friend, overworked, not a specialist, had reviewed it in 48 hours and said it looked standard. Standard. She thought about the day of that dinner, the restaurant near the river, the white tablecloths, Derek refilling her wine and saying, "We'll never need this, it's just formality." She had nodded and felt lucky. She had felt lucky to be marrying a man who was already thinking about protecting them both. She put her phone face down on the pillow. I was so proud of myself for being practical and reasonable about the prenup. I was so proud of myself for not being the kind of woman who made a fuss. She had been practical and reasonable all the way into a corner. Sleep came eventually, not restful sleep, the kind that covers the surface of things without going deep. She woke at 6:40, with sunlight coming through the curtains and Patrice's coffee maker making noise in the kitchen, and a very clear, very present awareness of what day it was, and what had happened, and what was coming. She did not lie there. She got up. Patrice had laid a folded towel and a new toothbrush on the bathroom counter. Claire stood under the shower for a long time. The water pressure was stronger than at the Westfield Heights house, and she noted this absurdly. The shower pressure was better here, and filed it away as one small fact in favor of being somewhere else. She dressed. She went to the kitchen. Patrice was at the table with coffee, her laptop open, not working. She looked up. "Miles Sherwood is coming this morning," Claire said. Patrice set down her mug. "How do you know Miles Sherwood?" "He left a card at my OB's office 4 months ago," Claire said. "He represents my father." Patrice was quiet for a moment. "What does your father have to do with this?" she said. "I'm not entirely sure yet," Claire said. "But something." She poured herself a glass of water. She drank all of it standing at the counter. She was remembering the good things now. That was the particular cruelty of mourning after a night like the last one. In the dark, you could maintain a kind of useful numbness. In the morning, the good memories came. Paris, the third year of their marriage. Derek had surprised her with the tickets. She had cried at the Musée d'Orsay in front of a painting she had wanted to see since she was 19. He had stood beside her and not said a word, which was exactly right. The night they found out she was pregnant, he had gone completely still. Then he had picked her up, carefully, both hands, deliberate, and turned in a slow circle in the kitchen. She had laughed. He had laughed. The dinner they were supposed to be making burned on the stove. Every good memory was a question now. Was that real? Was that real? Was that the man or the performance? She could not sort it, and she was not sure she would ever be able to. Grief, she thought. This is grief, not for him, for who I thought he was. She was still at the counter when Miles Sherwood knocked on the door at 9. He was 45, slightly shorter than average, with the kind of face that did not invite small talk. He wore a gray suit and carried a briefcase, and he shook Claire's hand with both of his and said he was glad she had called and he was sorry for the circumstances. He sat at Patrice's kitchen table. He opened the briefcase. He set a folder on the table. "Before I show you this," he said, "I want you to know that your father prepared this because he loves you, and he is afraid he has already waited too long. He is not asking anything of you. He is offering you options." "What options?" Claire said. "That depends on what's in the folder," Miles said. She opened it. The folder had 3 sections. Section 1 was financial. Derek's business accounts over the past 2 years. Claire was not a financial analyst, but she did not need to be. Miles walked her through it slowly, pointing to the numbers, explaining the transfers in plain language. 3 transfers to a personal account she had not known existed, not joint, not business. A private account in Derek's name only. The transfers totaled $140,000 over 18 months. A property purchase, a studio apartment in the Meridian District, purchased 22 months ago under Derek's name. The lease on the parking space attached to that property listed a second name. Amber Prescott, 22 months ago. She had been 4 months pregnant when that apartment was purchased. He was building a life with her while I was building a nursery, while I was painting that room yellow. That was the same month, the exact same month. He told me 8 months, Claire said. We believe the relationship began significantly earlier, Miles said. She looked at the property documents, the address, the date. The name on the parking space lease. She did not cry. Something had hardened overnight, not bitterness, something more like clarity, the kind that comes when you stop hoping for a different explanation. How did my father get this? She said. He retained a private investigator 6 weeks ago, Miles said, when he received information that suggested your husband was planning to act. What kind of information? A mutual acquaintance. Someone in Derek's business circle who had heard enough to be concerned. Miles paused. Your father has been in contact with Owen Reeves. Claire looked up. Owen came to your father, Miles said. Not the reverse. Mr. Reeves was in a difficult position. He knew what Derek was planning. He did not act quickly enough. I believe he was hoping the situation would resolve without his involvement. It didn't, Claire said. No, Miles said. Section 2 was the prenuptial agreement. Annotated. Miles had gone through every clause. He had highlighted 3 in yellow and 1 in red. The red one was 7 lines long. Dense, legal language. Miles translated it into plain English. In the event of marital dissolution, if the non-moneyed spouse voluntarily vacates the marital home, all assets acquired during the marriage revert to the moneyed spouse. Voluntarily vacates. She had sat on the porch step. She had packed her bag. She had picked up her keys from the bowl and walked out. He planned it, she thought. He arranged the evening. He chose that night. He made sure I would walk in. My attorney approved this agreement, Claire said. Your attorney at the time, Miles said carefully, was not a specialist in family law. The clause was inserted in the final revision. It was submitted with 48 hours for review. We believe it was intended to go unnoticed. He used my dignity against me, she said. Not to Miles, to herself. A statement of fact delivered to the heir in Patrice's kitchen. Miles waited. He knew I wouldn't stay, Claire said. He knew I would leave rather than stand there. He counted on that. Yes, Miles said. And I did exactly what he expected. Yes, Miles said. But he was working with incomplete information. She looked at him. Section 3 was blank, just a white page. Section 3, Miles said, is for when you're ready to speak with your father. She looked at the blank page for a moment, then she turned back to Section 1. The clause, she said, is it enforceable? We believe the fraudulent insertion provides grounds to void the entire agreement, Miles said. We will argue that the prenuptial contract was executed under circumstances of intentional misrepresentation. We expect to succeed. She nodded. I want to understand everything, she said. Before I talk to my father, I want to understand my own situation completely. Miles nodded once. He respected that. She could see it. They worked through Section 1 again. Every transfer, every date. The apartment, the account, the paper trail that a man builds when he is confident he will never have to answer for it. She asked questions. Good ones. Miles answered them all. When she reached for her phone to search something, her thumb moved automatically to Derek's name in her contacts. She stopped. Set the phone down. No. She pulled up a browser instead. She typed in her father's name, Gordon Ashworth, Ashworth Holdings. The results loaded. She read the first line of the Wikipedia entry. She read it again. Net worth, $1.4 billion. She read it a third time. $1.4 billion. He had been in logistics and supply chain infrastructure since 1987. Before she was born, before she was a thought, he had built something vast and unglamorous and entirely invisible to the world that Derek Whitfield occupied. Derek had researched her family before their wedding. She knew this. He had mentioned it once, casually, in the context of estate planning. He had described her family as comfortable. He had been satisfied with comfortable. He had not looked deeper. He married me thinking I was the comfortable girl from a comfortable family. He did not look past what he could see. She scrolled to the one photo on the page, an old one. Her father at some courthouse, 10 or 12 years ago, gray suit, hands in his pockets, not looking at the camera, looking at something to the right, his jaw, his eyes. She had her father's jaw and her father's eyes, and she had been looking at her own face for 31 years without fully allowing herself to see it there. Her phone rang. The name on the screen, Nora Whitfield. She looked at it for 2 full rings. She answered. Nora, she said. Claire. Nora's voice was crystalline, careful in the way that meant she had already chosen a position and was simply communicating it now. I think we need to have a very direct conversation. All right, Claire said. If you choose to make this adversarial, Nora said, the family has resources. We have character witnesses who would speak to your instability during the pregnancy. We have the prenuptial agreement. We have, she paused. Derek has photographs. I'm not going to be specific about that. I just want you to understand that the path of least resistance is also the path most favorable to everyone, including the child. Claire looked at Miles. Miles was looking at the table with an expression of contained patience. Mrs. Whitfield, Claire said. Yes. I'll be in touch through my attorney. She ended the call. Miles looked up. She mentioned photographs. Claire said. A common tactic, Miles said. Vague threat, no specifics, designed to destabilize. It didn't work, Claire said. I know, Miles said. I noticed. Patrice came back from the grocery store at that point, carrying 2 bags and stopping in the kitchen doorway at the sight of Miles. Claire introduced them. Patrice set down her bags and looked at the folder on the table and then at Claire. Are you okay? Patrice said. I'm getting organized, Claire said. That was the most accurate description of what was happening. She was not okay yet, but she was not broken either. She was locating the edges of the situation and mapping them the way she had always mapped things, quietly, methodically, without announcing it. Miles gathered his documents. I'll come back tomorrow, he said. With Section 3. I'll be ready, Claire said. After he left, Patrice put the groceries away, and neither of them spoke for a while. Then Patrice said, 1.4 billion. Yes, Claire said. Your father? Yes. Patrice opened the refrigerator, closed it, opened it again. Okay, she said. Okay. Do you want eggs? Yes, Claire said. I haven't eaten since yesterday. I know, Patrice said. I've been waiting for you to notice. She made eggs, real ones, low heat, patient, the kitchen filled with the smell of butter and coffee and something almost normal. Claire sat at the table and ate every bite. Owen Reeves called Patrice that night at 8:30. Patrice handed the phone to Claire without a word. Owen, Claire said. A pause. He had not expected her to answer. Claire. His voice had the quality of someone who had spent a week deciding what to say and had arrived at the wrong thing regardless. I've been meaning to. I know about the transfers, Claire said. I know about the private account. I know about the apartment. And I know you knew about at least some of this before you told Patrice to stay out of it. Silence. I want you to know, Claire said, that what happens next depends on this conversation. Owen exhaled. What do you want? He said. The truth, Claire said. To start. What Owen told her took 22 minutes. He confirmed that Derek had shown him the prenuptial agreement clause, not as a confession, as a strategy. 6 weeks before he engineered that evening, Derek had described the plan in terms that Owen, to his own shame, had understood as nothing more than aggressive asset protection. He had not processed it as a plan to abandon a pregnant woman. He had filed it as an unpleasant legal maneuver and done nothing. He said you'd be too proud to stay, Owen said. He said you'd just leave. Claire sat with that. He was right, she said. I did. Claire. He was working with incomplete information, she said. That's not your fault. That's mine. I never corrected it. Owen was quiet. The transfers, she said. You knew about those. Another pause. I knew something was off with the accounts. I thought it was discretionary spending at first. When I understood the scale, he stopped. Derek knew about your accounts too, she said. The silence that followed was its own kind of answer. I see, she said. It wasn't explicit, Owen said. It was more of an understanding, Claire said. Yes, Owen said. She thanked him. He asked if she was going to help him. I'm going to talk to my attorney, she said. I'd recommend you talk to yours. She ended the call and sat at Patrice's kitchen table with her hands flat on the surface and just breathed for a moment. In through her nose, out through her mouth. Everyone around me knew before I did. I was the last person in my own life. Not a question, Not a wallowing, just the clear-eyed naming of a thing that needed to be named before she could put it down and move forward. She moved forward. Miles came the next morning with a new document, a bank statement, Claire's name at the top, an account she had never accessed. Below her name, the account balance, $47 million. She read it once, she read it again. "This is mine," she said. "A family trust," Miles said. "Established when you were born, dormant because of a form you signed at 18, a routine administrative document that was not explained to you as what it was. It removed you as active beneficiary. Your father has spent 3 years reconstructing the legal pathway to restore your access." 3 years, she said. "He started shortly after your estrangement," Miles said. "He anticipated you might eventually need it regardless of whether you ever reconciled." She looked at the balance again. This cannot be real. Things like this do not happen. And yet apparently they do, and apparently they have been waiting. "Does Derek know about this account?" she said. "No," Miles said. "He researched your family's finances before the marriage. He found a comfortable level of wealth. He did not look past that. He assumed your estrangement from your father meant there was nothing deeper to find. He married her believing she was comfortable and disconnected from real money. He acted accordingly. He built his entire plan around a version of her that was missing the most important information. He was wrong," she said. "Significantly," Miles said. She sat back in her chair. She thought about Derek at that business lunch. Owen had mentioned he was at lunch the day Miles made the first notification call. She thought about Derek excusing himself from the table, walking to some parking garage, standing between 2 concrete pillars with his phone. She thought about the expression that would be on his face. Not satisfaction, not triumph, something quieter than that. The feeling of watching a situation that someone had arranged very carefully begin to rearrange itself without their permission. "I want to speak with my father tonight," she said. "He'll be available whenever you're ready," Miles said. After Miles left, Claire went to Patrice's bathroom and ran the bath. She did not get in. She sat on the edge of the tub, fully clothed, and let the water run and fill and steam while she sat with everything she now knew. The water reached the halfway point. She turned it off. She sat in the steam and the quiet, and she let herself be exactly as overwhelmed as she was, without performing anything for anyone, without organizing it yet, without reaching for the next step. Just sat there. Her daughter kicked, a slow rolling movement, unhurried, certain of itself. "I know," Claire said. "I'm working on it." She pressed both palms flat against her stomach. "I promise," she said. "I'm working on it." She called her father at 9 o'clock that night. He answered before the second ring. "Claire," he said. Just that. Her name, in his voice. The voice she had not heard in 4 years. Deeper than she remembered. Slower, the voice of a man who had stopped rushing things. She had told herself, over 4 years, that she did not miss him. That the estrangement was necessary. That her reasons were good. Her reasons had been good. A disagreement about her choices, his silence when she needed his approval, a conversation that went wrong, and then another, and then a distance that became its own structure. She had not known, until she heard his voice, how much she had been carrying. "I'm in trouble," she said. "I know," he said. "I have known for a while. I am sorry I didn't call sooner. I was afraid you would not want to hear from me." She did not offer easy forgiveness. She was not ready for that yet. But she said, "Miles told me about Section 3. "Yes," Gordon said. "Tell me," she said. He told her. The trust, its history, its dormancy, the administrative form she had signed at a university office at 18 without understanding, the 3 years of legal reconstruction, the parallel track he had been maintaining quietly since learning, through channels He did not fully explain yet that Derek Whitfield was not the man he appeared to be. "Why didn't you tell me?" she said. "When you found out 6 weeks ago." "Because," he said, and then he stopped. He took a breath. "Because I've not earned the right to walk into your life and deliver a crisis. I needed to have something to offer before I came back. I needed to have Section 3 ready." She looked at the ceiling of Patrice's guest room. "That is either very thoughtful or very controlling," she said. "It is both," he said. "I know that. I am not asking you to approve of it. I am asking you to let me help now." She thought about the water glass on Patrice's bathroom counter, the toothbrush Patrice had left out, the way people who love you make space for you before you know you need it. "Tell me about Section 3, she said. The Section 3 document, when Miles had explained it in full, had 3 components. The financial audit of Derek's accounts was already in process, triggered by the transfers Miles had identified, and the documents Owen had quietly shared with Gordon's team. The audit was independent. It would reach its own conclusions on its own timeline. Claire did not need to participate. The prenuptial agreement was being challenged on grounds of fraudulent inducement. The clause in question had been inserted after Claire's attorney completed her review. There was documentation, email timestamps, version tracking on the document file that showed the revision was made and submitted after the review period ended. This was enough, and the trust, $47 million, restored to active status, in Claire's name, accessible. "I don't need the money to live," she said to her father. "That's not what this is about." "I know," he said. "I need to know she's protected," she said. "My daughter." His voice changed, just slightly. "You know," he said. 3 weeks ago," Claire said. "I hadn't told Derek yet." A silence. "A girl," he said. "Yes," she said. Another silence. Longer this time. "What will you call her?" he said. I don't know yet," she said. "I've been thinking about Evelyn." "Your grandmother's middle name," he said. She had not remembered that. She had chosen it simply because she had always loved the sound of it. "Yes," she said. "That's a good name," Gordon said. They were quiet for a moment. 2 people on the phone in the dark. 4 years of distance between them. Something small and true passing back and forth in the silence. "I want to meet with Miles tomorrow," she said, "and I want to call Owen Reeves in the morning." "I can arrange both," he said. "I know you can," she said, "but I'm going to do it myself." Another pause. Then, "Good." She ended the call and lay in the dark and stared at the water stain on the ceiling. The old leak, dealt with, marked but not open. "I am going to be all right," she thought, not as a pep talk, as a statement of fact arrived at through evidence. I am going to be all right, and so is she. The street light came through the curtains. She slept. She woke at 2:58. No particular reason, no sound, just suddenly awake in the dark room, with her heart going slightly faster than it should, and an awareness of the baby's weight and the particular quality of silence at 3 in the morning that is different from any other silence. She reached for her phone. She opened Amber Prescott's Instagram. She had been telling herself not to do this since yesterday. She had told herself it was not useful information. It would not help her. It was the kind of thing you do when you are trying to feed pain instead of move through it. She did it anyway. The most recent post was from this afternoon. A photo. Warm light. Takeout containers and a candle and a glass of white wine and the edge of a kitchen counter in the background. White quartz. The counter Claire had spent 3 weekends choosing. Amber had posted from Claire's kitchen the same day Claire had left it. The photo had 237 likes. She stared at it for a long time. Then she opened a browser. She typed, What to do when your husband kicks you out while pregnant. Stared at the results, closed the tab, opened it again, typed the same words, closed it again without reading. She set the phone down on the mattress. She lay on her back in the dark with her hands on her stomach, and she let herself feel the full weight of it. All of it at once. The kitchen counter, the hoodie. Derek's voice saying sorry about the timing. Nora's voice on the voicemail, smooth and weaponized. Patrice staying quiet for 2 years. Owen filing it away. The prenuptial clause, red highlighted on Miles's annotated copy. The apartment with Amber's name on the parking space. 22 months. 4 months pregnant. She had been painting the nursery yellow. She had chosen yellow because she did not know the gender yet, and because yellow felt like optimism. She had done 2 coats herself on a Saturday in May because Derek said he would help and then got called into the office. She had put a 3rd coat on the following weekend, alone, listening to a podcast, with paint in her hair and the windows open. She had been so happy that day. She let herself grieve that. The happiness of that day. The specific happiness of a woman painting a room yellow on a Saturday morning, believing the world is what it appears to be. That was a real happiness. It happened. The fact that the ground was not solid underneath it did not unmake the happiness. He cannot have that day, she thought. That day is mine. I painted that room. I was happy. He does not get to take that. At 3:47, she got up. She went to the kitchen. She did not turn on the overhead light, just the light above the stove, small and yellow and sufficient. She made herself a cup of herbal tea. She drank it standing at the counter, because sitting felt like something she had been doing too much of lately. She reorganized Patrice's spice drawer, not because it needed it, because her hands needed something to do. She pulled everything out and arranged it alphabetically, and then by frequency of use, because alphabetical was not actually practical, and she knew where her practical brain was, and she was going to use it. Basil, bay leaves, cardamom, cayenne. She worked her way through the whole drawer. Patrice found her there at 5:15, still in the kitchen light. "Are you okay?" Patrice said. "I reorganized your spices," Claire said. "I noticed," Patrice said. "I put the ones you use most in the front," Claire said. "Thank you," Patrice said. She put the kettle on and sat at the table and looked at Claire and did not ask any more questions. That was friendship. Claire understood it with new clarity in that early morning kitchen. Friendship was a person sitting down at 5 in the morning in their socks and not asking you to explain yourself. "I'm going to call Owen at 7, Claire said. "I'll make breakfast first," Patrice said. "Thank you," Claire said. She called Owen at 7. He sounded afraid. She was precise. She told him what she knew. She told him what Miles knew. She told him that the financial audit was already in process and that its conclusions would be what they would be regardless of his participation. "But," she said, "your participation now in the form of full cooperation with the audit and a formal statement to Miles about the prenuptial clause would go a long way toward determining how your role is characterized when this resolves." Owen was quiet for a moment. "You've changed," he said. "No," she said. "You just didn't know me." She ended the call. She ate the breakfast Patrice had made. Eggs again, toast, a glass of orange juice. She ate every bite. Her hands were steady. She had not lost anything, she realized. She had not lost herself. She had simply set herself down somewhere and forgotten to pick her back up. She was picking herself back up now. One clear morning, action at a time. Miles called at 11 to say Owen Reeves had contacted his office. He had requested a meeting. He was prepared to cooperate fully. Miles said this the way someone says a thing they are pleased about while remaining professionally composed about it. "Good," Claire said. "There is one more thing," Miles said. "Derek's attorney called this morning. They appear to be requesting a preliminary conversation. About? They did not specify. We believe Derek has become aware of certain developments. I would recommend we meet in person before we respond to them. Spitbonbon. I'll come to your office, Claire said. She had not been to Ashworth Holdings before. Her father had built the building after their estrangement. She knew the address from the documents. She took a car. She had been avoiding driving. Her focus was good, but her sleep was not, and Dr. Fitch had told her at the last appointment to be careful with fatigue in the 3rd trimester. The building was 40 stories of glass and clean stone in the financial district. Not flashy, not the kind of building that announces itself, the kind that simply exists at a scale that makes the buildings around it seem to be trying harder. There was a plaque near the elevator bank, small, brass, simple. Ashworth Holdings, Estampt, 1987. 1987. She was born in 1993. He started this before she existed. Her father was waiting in the lobby. 64 years old. She had been looking at the one old Wikipedia photo for 2 days and expecting the man in that photo. The man in the lobby was older, gray at the temples and throughout now, the same jaw, the same eyes, gray-green, different in different light, hers exactly. He looked at her the way someone looks at a thing they were afraid they had waited too long to see. He did not hug her immediately. He stood and he looked at her face and her stomach, and something moved through his expression. A specific grief, a specific relief, that she recognized as genuine because she knew what performed emotion looked like now, and this was not it. You look well, he said, despite everything. I'm not well, she said, but I'm not broken. He nodded once. That's enough, he said. For now, that's enough. The conference room was on the 38th floor. Views of the river on 3 sides, a long table of pale wood. Miles was already there, with 2 other attorneys Claire did not know yet, but would come to know well over the following weeks. Gordon gestured to the chair at the head of the table. She sat there. They spent 3 hours going through everything. She asked every question she had. She authorized what she was legally able to authorize. She asked for explanations when language was unclear, and she did not apologize for asking. At one point, there was a coffee tray brought in. She poured a cup for herself, poured one for Miles, poured one for her father, the small automatic choreography of it, taking care of others in the middle of her own crisis, the habit of it. Her father watched her do this. He smiled for the first time. Your grandmother did that, he said. Same thing. Middle of any situation, she would find the coffee. It was the first warm thing they had exchanged in 4 years. She held it carefully, not rushing toward it, not rejecting it, just holding it the way you hold something new that might be fragile. He kept showing up, she thought. That is the thing about him. He prepared, and he waited, and he kept the door open from his side, even when I didn't. She did not say this out loud, but she felt it settle somewhere in her chest, like a decision being made without ceremony. Her phone buzzed, Derek's name on the screen. She looked at it. She turned it face down on the table. Not yet, she said. Miles nodded. When you're ready, he said. I'll be ready tomorrow, she said. She called Derek on a Tuesday morning, 8 days after she had sat on the porch step counting red flowers. He answered on the second ring with a voice that was trying very hard to sound normal. We need to talk, he said. Yes, she said. We do. She drove to the house. She had thought she might feel something pulling when she turned onto their street. The maple was fully changed now, red and gold, every leaf turned. She had missed it at the peak, and she found she did not mind. Derek was in the kitchen when she came in. He had cleaned it. The white quartz was spotless. The marinara was long gone. He had also, she noticed, put away all the items on the counter that had been Amber's: the second coffee mug, the phone charger with a different connector than his, a travel-size lotion that was not the brand either of them used. The items were gone, but their absence was its own kind of presence. Derek looked tired in a specific way, the way a person looks when they have spent a week discovering that the floor they were standing on was not solid. He had been served with preliminary documents from the financial audit 3 days prior. Miles had confirmed this. His attorney had made 3 calls to Miles's office in the past 48 hours, each one slightly more urgent in tone. Owen Reeves had retained separate counsel. Amber Prescott had not returned to the house since the morning Miles made the first notification call. "I didn't know," Derek said, as soon as she walked in. She looked at him. "Didn't know what, specifically?" she said. "Which part?" He meant her family. He meant the money. He meant Gordon Ashworth and the building on the 38th floor and the $47 million that had been waiting in her name while he was listing the assets in his. "I know," she said. "Claire." He ran a hand over his face. "I made mistakes. I know that, but I never thought—" "I know," she said again. She was not going to make it easy for him by showing him the shape of her anger. She was not performing composure. She genuinely felt it. The anger had moved through her and left something steadier behind. Not forgiveness, not absolution, just the clear quiet of a woman who knows exactly where she stands. "The prenuptial agreement," she said. "My attorney says there may be some procedural—" "The agreement is void," Claire said. "Miles has the documentation. The fraudulent insertion voids the entire instrument. Your attorney knows this. That's why he's been calling Miles 3 times a day." Derek was quiet. "The financial audit will run its course," she said. "I'm not directing that. It's independent. Whatever it finds, it finds." "The transfers were—" He stopped. "You don't need to explain them to me," she said. "You'll need to explain them to the auditors." He looked at the window, the backyard, the oak tree they had planted together in the 2nd year of their marriage, still small, still finding its shape. "Are you going to ruin me?" he said. She considered the question honestly. "No," she said. "The audit will handle what it handles. I'm not interested in your destruction. I'm interested in my daughter's future." His head came up. "I found out 3 weeks ago," she said. "I hadn't told you." He absorbed this. "A girl," he said. "Yes," she said. He sat down at the kitchen table, just sat there for a moment with both hands flat on the surface, looking at them. "I deserve better than this." The thought arrived simply and did not require a longer sentence. She left Derek in the kitchen and walked through the house. She went upstairs. She stood in the doorway of the nursery. Yellow walls. She had done 3 coats. There were still faint brush marks in the corner near the window where she had to use a small brush instead of the roller. She had told herself she would touch those up. She had kept meaning to. The crib was still in the box in the corner. She went and got a flathead screwdriver from the junk drawer in the hall cabinet. She came back. She opened the box. She sat down on the yellow floor and she spread out the instructions and she assembled the crib herself, piece by piece, following the diagram. She had to redo the left side rail twice because the angle was wrong the first time and the second time, and she got it on the 3rd time. When she stood up and stepped back, the crib was solid. White wood. Clean lines. She pressed on the mattress support. Firm and even. She stood in the yellow room with a flathead screwdriver in her hand, and she looked at the crib she had built herself, and she thought, "Good. This is a good crib. She will sleep in this. She went back downstairs. Derek was still at the table. The equitable division of marital assets will proceed through Miles, she said. The family home will be sold, the proceeds split according to the settlement. I don't need the money, but I'm going to take it because it's correct. I don't need it, but I deserve it. Both things are true. Derek nodded. She picked up her keys. One more thing, she said. He looked up. Your mother called to apologize, she said. In the way that your mother apologizes. I want you to know that I will make my own decisions about my daughter's relationship with her grandmother. I don't need your input on that. I'll let you know what I decide. She walked out. She sat in the car. She put both hands on the steering wheel. The maple at the end of the driveway was in full color now. Every leaf. She had not seen it at the turn, but she was seeing it now, red and gold and entirely itself, not asking permission from anyone. She backed out and drove. Her phone rang 20 minutes later. Patrice. How did it go? Patrice said. It went, Claire said. Good, Patrice said. Come over. I bought real cheese. Evelyn Claire Ashworth was born on a Thursday at 6:42 in the morning. She weighed 7 pounds and 9 ounces. She had Claire's jaw and, it became clear, over the first days, Gordon Ashworth's eyes. Gray-green. The color of a morning that can't decide yet whether it will be overcast or clear. The labor was 15 hours. Dr. Fitch was there for the last 4. Patrice was in the waiting room from midnight when Claire had texted her that her water had broken, and she appeared in the doorway of the delivery room at 6:45 in a wrinkled sweater with her hair undone and her eyes red. She's here, Claire said. Patrice made a sound that was not a word. She came in and held Claire's hand and looked at Evelyn and said, quietly, something Claire could not quite hear but understood was the kind of thing you say to someone when they are new to the world and you are glad they arrived. Gordon Ashworth was in the waiting room. He had been there since 3 in the morning. Claire had texted him when she texted Patrice, not as a declaration, not as a resolution of everything between them, just because she had wanted someone who loved her in the building, and he was someone who loved her. He was allowed in at 8:30. He stood in the doorway of the room first. He looked at Claire. He looked at Evelyn in her arms. He came to the chair beside the bed, and he sat down. May I? He said. She passed him the baby. He held Evelyn for 12 minutes. She watched him count it in small movements. The adjustment of his hands, the careful rebalancing, the way his head bent toward hers in a posture she recognized because she had seen it in the mirror in the early morning hours when she talked to her daughter through her own skin. He was crying, not loudly, not in a way he was announcing, just quietly, with his head bent over this small person in the hallway light of a hospital room on a Thursday morning. I'm not, he said, generally a man who does this in hallways. I know, Claire said. She looks like you, he said. She looks like both of us, Claire said. He nodded. He handed Evelyn back with the same care he had taken her with, and he wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, and he sat up straight. Thank you, he said. She did not ask for what. She understood. The days that followed were the particular blur of new parenthood, the feedings and the sleeping that was never quite enough, and the specific exhaustion that is also, somehow, the most awake you have ever been, attending to every small signal of a person who cannot tell you what they need yet, but needs you absolutely. Patrice came every other day. She brought food. She sat on the couch and held Evelyn so Claire could shower. She did not require conversation, and she did not fill silence unnecessarily, and she was the best kind of company because she never made Claire feel like being helped was a transaction. Gordon called every morning at 9. Brief calls. He did not overstay. He asked about the baby and asked how Claire was sleeping and said one practical thing about the trust, about the settlement timeline, about the apartment renovations. And then he said goodbye. She found that she looked forward to the calls, not in a complicated way. Just the way you look forward to something reliable in a day that is otherwise not quite organized yet. The financial audit concluded 6 weeks after Evelyn was born. Miles delivered the summary. The irregularities in Derek's business accounts were confirmed. The audit findings were referred to the appropriate regulatory bodies. This was not Claire's doing. The audit was independent, and it reached the conclusions the evidence required. The prenuptial agreement was formally voided. The marital assets were divided equitably. The house sold quickly. The proceeds were split according to the settlement. Claire did not attend the closing. Miles handled it. She was home with Evelyn when the confirmation email came through, and she read it at the kitchen table in her robe with a cup of coffee going cold beside her, and she felt not triumph, something quieter, the particular satisfaction of a door closing properly, not slammed, just shut. Derek and Amber were no longer together by the time the settlement finalized. She knew this, not because she was tracking it, but because Patrice still had lunch. Occasionally, with Owen's wife, and that was how information moved through the fabric of the people they had both known. She did not seek details. She did not need them. What she was attending to was in front of her. The apartment on the 12th floor with the river view. Her counter, white quartz, her choice. With Evelyn's bottles drying in the rack. The crib in the second bedroom, built with a flathead screwdriver on a yellow floor. The morning light that came through the east window and fell across the rug in a long rectangle that Evelyn found fascinating at 6 weeks, her gray-green eyes tracking it with the focused attention of someone encountering something wonderful for the first time. The Evelyn Fund was Miles's name for it initially, said in passing at a meeting, and it stuck. It was a small division of the family trust, designated for legal support and emergency housing for pregnant women navigating domestic crisis without financial resources. Claire had proposed it in a meeting with Gordon's foundation team 4 months after Evelyn was born. She had described it in 4 sentences. Gordon had approved it in 2. In its first year, it served 43 women. Claire did not make public statements about it. There was no press. There was a website with a contact form and a phone number, and the words, "You do not have to navigate this alone." In the evenings, when Evelyn was asleep and the apartment was quiet, and the river showed its lights in the dark through the window, Claire would sit on the couch with a cup of tea and she would think, not about Derek, not about the prenuptial clause, not about the white quartz counter in the Westfield Heights house, but about the yellow room, 3 coats, the brush marks in the corner she never touched up, the screwdriver, the 3rd attempt at the left side rail. She thought about the day she painted it alone with the windows open, the podcast she was listening to, a history one, something about ancient trade routes. She could not now remember the specific episode, but she remembered the voice. She remembered the smell of the paint. She remembered standing on the step stool, reaching for the corner near the ceiling, and feeling the baby move for the first time. That early flutter, she was not certain, was real until it came again. That day was mine, she thought. He could not have it, and he never could. That day was always mine. One evening, Evelyn was 3 months old and had recently developed the habit of smiling at the kitchen light, which was both delightful and inconvenient at 2 in the morning. Claire was carrying 2 paper grocery bags from the car to the apartment. The bags were heavy. The elevator was slow. She maneuvered the door with one hip, the way you learn to do when your hands are always full. She set the bags on her counter and unloaded them. Evelyn was asleep in the carrier, strapped to her chest, cheek resting against Claire's collarbone, warm and heavy, and entirely trusting. Bread, orange juice, the good butter, because she had decided some time ago that the good butter was worth it. A jar of marinara sauce. She paused at the marinara. She turned it over in her hand. Ragu traditional, same brand as the one she had been carrying home on that Tuesday afternoon. She set it on the counter. The jar broke the same moment she did, but she had not broken. She had thought she was breaking. She had sat on a porch step and counted red flowers and believed she was watching herself come apart. But what she had actually been doing was sitting still long enough to figure out what she was made of. Turns out she was made of this, a woman who cleans up marinara with steady hands and packs a bag and drives to a friend's house and asks for help without performing collapse. A woman who reorganizes spice drawers at 3 in the morning because her hands need work. A woman who assembles furniture alone on a yellow floor and gets the left rail right on the 3rd try. Not the woman who falls apart, the woman who was falling into place. It just looked the same from the outside. She finished unloading the groceries. She put the butter in the refrigerator. She turned on the kitchen light, the one Evelyn liked, and her daughter stirred against her chest, not waking, just adjusting, settling deeper into the warmth. "I know," Claire said softly. The river was visible from the window above the sink, the lights of the city on the water, the kind of view that existed whether you were looking at it or not, patient and indifferent and beautiful. She had spent a long time not looking at things. She was looking now. The door that always stuck. She had learned the trick of it. A slight lift on the handle before you turn was behind her. Closed. The groceries were away. The apartment was quiet, in the particular way it was quiet when everything in it was hers, and she knew where everything was, and no one was going to rearrange it in the night. Evelyn breathed. The river moved. The kitchen light was warm. This is enough, Claire thought. This exactly as it is enough. Not as a consolation, not as a making do, as a fact, clean and complete, and requiring nothing added to it. She turned off the overhead light and left on the one above the stove. Small and yellow and sufficient. And she walked to the window and she stood there for a moment in the glow of it, looking out at the water, her daughter sleeping against her heart, the good butter in the refrigerator, the left side rail solid. Everything that had to hold was holding. That was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. Editorial disclaimer. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team with the purpose of delivering meaningful stories, genuine life lessons, and emotional value to our audience. Every detail has been crafted with intention and care.